5 questions that instantly expose any fake news story. Last week, a single fake news story about a celebrity's death spread to over 50 million people in just 6 hours. The problem? The celebrity was very much alive, posting on social media while millions mourned their tragic passing. But here's the truly scary part. 73% of people who shared that story never clicked on the link. They just read the headline and hit share. Right now, you're living in the most dangerous information environment in human history. Every day you're bombarded with thousands of pieces of information. And here's the terrifying truth. Your brain makes a decision about whether to believe something in less than 1.4 seconds. That's not enough time to think critically. That's barely enough time to read a headline. But what if I told you there are 5 simple questions, just 5, that can instantly reveal whether any news story is real or fake? Questions so powerful that they work faster than fake news can spread, and so simple that you can use them anywhere, anytime, without any special tools or expertise. In the next few minutes, you'll master a skill that less than 5% of people possess: the ability to spot deception in real time. Welcome back to VF Growth Tutorials, where we don't just teach you skills, we teach you survival techniques for the modern world. I'm your host, and today we're tackling one of the most critical challenges of our time: separating truth from fiction in an ocean of deliberate deception. This isn't just about being smart or well-informed. This is about protecting yourself, your family, and your community from manipulation that can destroy relationships, derail careers, and even influence elections. Fake news isn't just harmless misinformation anymore. It's a weaponized tool designed to trigger your emotions, bypass your critical thinking, and get you to take action before you realize you've been deceived. The people creating fake news understand your psychology better than you do, and they're using that knowledge against you every single day. But once you learn these 5 questions, you'll have a superpower that makes you practically immune to deception. Here's what makes this different from everything else you've heard about fake news. These aren't complex fact-checking procedures that take forever to complete. These are lightning-fast mental triggers that work in seconds, not minutes. They're designed to be used in the moment, when you're scrolling through social media, reading news alerts, or having conversations with friends and family. If you're ready to become the person in your circle who can instantly spot deception, hit that like button right now, and let's dive into your crash course in truth detection. The anatomy of fake news: understanding your enemy. Before you can defeat fake news, you need to understand exactly what you're fighting against. Fake news isn't just random lies spread by confused people. It's a sophisticated psychological warfare system designed to exploit fundamental weaknesses in human cognition. The creators of fake news are often highly skilled professionals who understand neuroscience, social psychology, and viral marketing better than most college professors. Modern fake news operates on what researchers call the emotional hijack principle. Your brain processes emotional information about 20 times faster than rational information, so fake news stories are specifically engineered to trigger intense emotional responses: fear, anger, outrage, or excitement, before your logical mind has a chance to engage. This is why you might find yourself feeling strongly about a news story before you've even finished reading it, and why you might share something impulsively that you would never endorse after careful consideration. The most dangerous fake news stories contain just enough truth to seem credible. They might use real names, real locations, or reference actual events, but they twist crucial details to support a false narrative. This technique, called truth sandwiching, makes fake news incredibly difficult to detect because your brain recognizes the true elements and assumes the entire story must be accurate. It's like a master counterfeiter who uses real paper and real ink but prints fake money. Fake news creators also exploit your social psychology by designing stories that make you feel like you're part of an informed, enlightened group, that knows the real truth. They use phrases like, "what they don't want you to know," or "the story the mainstream media won't tell you," to make you feel special and superior for believing their version of events. This psychological manipulation is incredibly powerful because it taps into your fundamental need for social identity and belonging. Understanding these techniques is crucial because traditional approaches to fighting fake news, like fact-checking websites and media literacy education, often arrive too late. By the time experts have thoroughly debunked a fake story, it may have already influenced millions of people and shaped public opinion on important issues. The 5 questions we're about to explore are designed to work at the speed of deception, giving you real-time protection against these sophisticated manipulation techniques. Question 1. Who is the original source of this information? The first question that will transform your relationship with information is deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful. Who is the original source of this information? This question cuts through the noise of social media sharing, viral headlines, and secondary reporting to identify where a story actually originated. Most fake news relies on people never asking this fundamental question, instead trusting the endless chain of shares and reposts that make false information seem credible through sheer repetition. When you encounter any news story, especially on social media, trace it back to its original source. Don't just look at who shared it with you. That could be your trusted friend or family member who was also deceived. Don't just look at the website or publication that's currently hosting the story. They might be republishing someone else's content. Dig deeper until you find the very first place this information appeared, and then evaluate that original source's credibility, expertise, and potential motivations. Legitimate news stories can almost always be traced back to credible original sources: official government statements, police reports, court documents, scientific studies, or interviews with actual witnesses and experts. Fake news stories often have mysterious or untraceable origins. You might see phrases like, "according to sources," "experts say," or "reports suggest," without any identification of who these sources actually are. If you can't identify real people taking responsibility for the information, that's a major red flag. Pay special attention to the timing of the original source. Fake news often emerges during emotionally charged periods, right before elections, during social unrest, or in the immediate aftermath of tragic events, when people are most vulnerable to emotional manipulation and least likely to think critically. If a bombshell story appears at a suspiciously convenient time for a particular political agenda, and you can't trace it to a credible original source, be extremely skeptical. The digital age has made source tracing both easier and more important than ever before. You can often find the original source of a story in seconds using reverse image searches, checking publication dates, or simply scrolling through the chain of social media shares. But most people never take these simple steps because fake news is designed to be consumed quickly and shared impulsively. By making source identification a habit, you're already ahead of 95% of people who consume news online. Question 2. What evidence is provided and can it be verified? The second question strikes at the heart of credibility. What evidence is provided, and can it be verified independently? This question separates legitimate journalism from sophisticated propaganda by examining whether claims are backed by verifiable facts or just persuasive language and emotional manipulation. Real news provides evidence. Fake news provides assertions disguised as evidence. Legitimate news stories include specific verifiable details, exact dates, precise locations, full names of sources, references to official documents, and clear explanations of how the information was obtained. You should be able to independently verify the key claims by checking official records, contacting the people mentioned, or examining the documents referenced. If a story makes dramatic claims but provides only vague details or unverifiable sources, that's a strong indicator of fake news. Be especially suspicious of evidence that sounds too perfect or convenient. Fake news often includes smoking gun documents, secretly recorded conversations, or insider testimonies that perfectly support a particular narrative. Real evidence is usually messy, complicated, and open to multiple interpretations. If evidence seems to completely vindicate one side of a controversial issue while making the other side look entirely villainous, you're probably looking at manufactured or manipulated information. Visual evidence requires particular scrutiny in the age of sophisticated photo and video editing. Images can be taken out of context, digitally manipulated, or completely fabricated using AI technology. Before accepting visual evidence, ask yourself, when and where was this image or video originally taken? Who took it? Has it been independently verified by multiple sources? Reverse image searches can quickly reveal whether dramatic photos or videos are actually old content being recycled for new fake stories. The most insidious fake news stories mix real evidence with false claims, making them extremely difficult to detect. They might reference actual events, real people, or genuine documents, but they twist the interpretation or add fabricated details to support a false narrative. This is why independent verification is so crucial. You need to check not just whether the evidence exists, but whether it actually supports the claims being made about it. When legitimate evidence is presented accurately, multiple credible sources will typically reach similar conclusions about what it means. Question 3. How does this story make me feel and why? The third question requires emotional intelligence and self-awareness. How does this story make me feel and why? This question is crucial because fake news is specifically designed to trigger intense emotional responses that bypass your critical thinking. When you're feeling strong emotions about a news story, you're in the exact mental state that fake news creators want you to be in. Reactive, rather than analytical. Strong emotional reactions to news stories aren't necessarily bad, but they should serve as warning signals to engage your critical thinking rather than your sharing finger. If a story makes you feel outraged, terrified, vindicated, or superior, take a step back before reacting. Ask yourself whether the story is providing information that naturally leads to these emotions, or whether it's using manipulative techniques specifically designed to trigger these feelings for the purpose of viral spread. Pay attention to the language and framing used in the story. Fake news often uses emotionally charged words, dramatic headlines, and polarizing language designed to make you feel like you're under attack, or that something urgent requires your immediate attention. Phrases like, "you won't believe," "shocking truth," "they don't want you to know," or "this will make you furious," are emotional manipulation techniques, not journalism practices. Consider whether your emotional response is proportional to the actual significance of the events being reported. Fake news often takes minor incidents and presents them as major crises, or takes complex issues and reduces them to simple good versus evil narratives that trigger tribal loyalty responses. If you find yourself having an intense emotional reaction to something that, upon reflection, probably doesn't directly affect your life or warrant such strong feelings, you may be responding to emotional manipulation rather than genuine news. The most sophisticated fake news stories are designed to make you feel like sharing them is a moral imperative, that you'd be irresponsible or complicit not to spread the information to others. This sense of urgency and moral obligation is a classic manipulation technique. Real news informs you so you can make better decisions. Fake news pressures you to take immediate action based on incomplete or false information. When you feel emotionally compelled to share something immediately, that's exactly when you should pause and apply the other 4 questions most carefully. Question 4. Who benefits if I believe and share this story? The fourth question reveals the hidden motivations behind information. Who benefits if I believe and share this story? This question is your shield against sophisticated influence operations, because it forces you to think about the strategic purposes that news stories can serve, beyond simply informing the public. Every piece of information you encounter serves someone's interests, and identifying those interests helps you evaluate whether those align with truth-telling or manipulation. Political fake news is often designed to benefit specific candidates, parties, or ideological movements by making their opponents look corrupt, dangerous, or incompetent. If a story seems perfectly timed to damage someone's reputation right before an election or important vote, ask yourself who would benefit from that timing. Legitimate scandals and newsworthy events can certainly occur at politically inconvenient times, but the timing combined with other red flags should increase your skepticism. Commercial fake news serves business interests by promoting certain products, discrediting competitors, or creating market conditions that benefit specific companies or industries. Stories about miracle cures, revolutionary technologies, or industry conspiracies often serve to drive traffic to websites, sell products, or manipulate stock prices. If a news story seems designed to make you buy something, avoid something, or invest in something, examine whether the information is coming from sources with financial conflicts of interest. Social and cultural fake news often serves to increase division, create controversy, or strengthen tribal identities that can be monetized through engagement, donations, or political mobilization. Stories that seem designed to make different groups hate each other, or that present complex social issues as simple battles between good and evil, often serve the interests of people who profit from conflict and division, rather than people who profit from accurate information. International fake news and disinformation campaigns serve the strategic interests of foreign governments, terrorist organizations, or other hostile actors who benefit from creating confusion, undermining trust in institutions, or destabilizing democratic processes. If a story seems designed to make you lose faith in your country's institutions, distrust your neighbors, or feel hopeless about democratic processes, consider whether those outcomes serve your interests or the interests of people who want to weaken your society. Question 5. What are multiple credible sources saying about this? The fifth and final question provides the ultimate reality check. What are multiple credible sources saying about this? This question recognizes that truth is rarely the exclusive property of any single source, and that credible information typically emerges through multiple independent investigations and reports. If only one source is reporting a major story, or if credible sources are reporting completely different versions of the same event, those are major warning signs. Credible sources have established track records of accuracy, clear editorial standards, transparent correction policies, and accountability mechanisms. They employ professional journalists who follow ethical guidelines, verify information before publication, and clearly distinguish between news reporting and opinion content. When evaluating sources, consider their reputation over time, not just whether you agree with their political perspectives or whether they're telling you what you want to hear. Cross-referencing stories across multiple sources helps you distinguish between facts and interpretation. Different credible sources might emphasize different aspects of the same story or draw different conclusions from the same facts, but the core factual elements should be consistent. If sources are reporting completely different basic facts about the same event, either the story is still developing and unclear, or some of the sources are unreliable. Be particularly cautious about stories that are only being reported by sources that share the same political perspective, funding sources, or ideological agenda. Even if these sources are generally credible, stories that only appear in ideologically aligned media often represent incomplete or biased coverage of complex issues. The most reliable information comes from sources that might disagree about interpretation but agree about basic facts. Pay attention to how credible sources handle uncertainty and conflicting information. Legitimate journalism acknowledges when information is unverified, when sources are conflicting, or when investigations are ongoing. Fake news often presents speculation as fact, ignores contradictory evidence, or claims certainty about complex situations that legitimate journalists would describe more cautiously. When credible sources are being careful and measured about a story, but other sources are making dramatic claims with complete certainty, trust the careful sources over the dramatic ones. Thank you for investing your time in learning these crucial truth detection skills. In a world drowning in misinformation, your commitment to seeking accurate information makes you part of the solution rather than part of the problem. You now possess a superpower that most people lack: the ability to spot deception in real time and make decisions based on reality rather than manipulation. If these 5 questions opened your eyes to how much fake news you might have been consuming, please hit that like button and help us spread these essential skills to more people who desperately need them. Subscribe to VF Growth Tutorials and ring that notification bell so you'll be equipped with more critical thinking tools as we release them. I'm genuinely curious about your experience with fake news detection. Have you ever fallen for a fake news story that you later discovered was false? What was it, and how did you figure out it wasn't true? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could help other viewers avoid similar deception. Your education in critical thinking and media literacy doesn't end here. YouTube's algorithm has selected the perfect next video to continue building your defenses against misinformation and manipulation. Just click anywhere on your screen to keep developing the mental tools you need to navigate our complex information landscape with confidence and clarity.